Hello everyone, welcome to the Hideout. I'm going to be discussing some beginner tips on Gundam Generation Eternal, and I want to cover rerolling, supporter units, and a starting party composition to get you through the early stages of the game. So, in Gundam Generation Eternal, basically in the beginning, whenever you're going through the stages, you're going to think that it's a good idea to go through Gundam, go through Zeta, go through Double Zeta, Seed and Wing, and as you're progressing, you go through each of these stages and come to your sortie preparation and fill out this series squad with units. But frankly, this is actually a bad idea. Um, Basically, if you want to do it like this, where you have these series squads filled out, and let me go to like this, to where you'd have these series squads filled out, you'd have to dump a bunch of your development resources into all these series Gundams units and level up your free squad at the same time. So you don't really want to do that because that'll hinder your progression towards the other stages. And on this account, I've created it today and I've just progressed through, and I've already completed the normal stages, 3-starred everything on Gundam, on Zeta, on Seed, and I'm currently working on Wing. And I've been using the same exact squad the entire time, and it is composed of units that I re-rolled for. Now, how'd I end up re-rolling for these units? Well, basically, I looked at supporter pulls for the most part because supporters are extremely important. Before I discuss anything about like Gundam stats or their levels, your supporters are really important because they allow you to get bonus stats across the board depending on a Gundam's tag. So Frederick Ades and Vesselus, he improves Gundams with the Unstoppable tag. So you'll notice that the Unstoppable tag here, there's two little chevrons. And if I look at my free squad composition, all of my Gundams that I'm using, and these are the only Gundams that I've used in my free squad the entire time, have two little chevrons to the top right, indicating that they're getting the bonus from the supporter. So whenever I was doing my reroll pulls, I was looking at what supporters I was getting, along with what Gundams I was getting, and seeing if I can match up a certain tag with Gundams that I'm getting. Now, one Gundam that you always get is the G-Quux, and this is a pretty good Gundam for a starter unit. You will be able to triple limit break this Gundam, and the pilot for it's pretty good. And it just so happens that the G-Quux has, and if you go to the unit details, you can see the G-Quux has the Unstoppable tag, as do all the Gundams in my current free squad composition. So basically, what I did was I re-rolled until I found a decent supporter and decent Gundams with the re-roll that I could use and build with the Unstoppable trait, because that's what I was building towards with the re-rolls that I got. Now, I could have taken it a different path. I could have looked for one-shot killer, lightning fast, tough as nails. There's a good bit of different tags that you can get. There's also supporters that have series tags. Oh, this one, but Hinkle and Radish is Mobile Suit Z Gundam. So Hinkle and Radish, this is a series based supporter. So he will boost. Let's see if I can effect targets. He boosts Zeta Gundams. Now, the series tag supporters are good for series teams, and they can also be good for Eternal Road stages. But for general purpose free squads, it's probably better to go for something like Unstoppable, Tough as Nails, One Shot Killer, Lightning Fast, things like that. Now, in my initial pulls, I did get 2 UR supporters, but I'm not actually using them right now. I decided to use the Unstoppable SSR that I got, and it's been working out fine. The SSR supporter units are really not that bad. They're 18% bump compared to SRs that have a 10% bump that you can increase to 14%. So kind of regardless, you'll always have a 14% bump because you get these guys for free in the opening missions. But I decided to build around Unstoppable. I knew that the G-Quux had Unstoppable. Basically, I built a pretty versatile team to carry me through the beginning stages. So I've got the F91, the Exia, the Phoenix, and the Halphas, and everything but the G-Quux are from the free gacha pools, and you can re-roll them in the beginning. And again, I just looked at the supporter that I got and kind of decided on whether or not I was going to end up with this team. Now, you can re-roll and hunt down multiple different types of supporters and different Gundams. So if I just go to my unit database, I do have, let's look at the Force Impulse. So the Force Impulse Gundam has lightning fast. So, you know, if you pull a Force Impulse Gundam with lightning fast and another UR attacker with lightning fast, I want to say maybe the Sazabi has lightning fast, and you get the supporter with lightning fast, maybe you can build a lightning fast team. Chances are from your initial picks, you're gonna have, let's just filter by tag here. Chances are you're going to have a decent amount of Gundams that have the lightning fast tag. So just here in general, like I said, I just have the Force Impulse Gundam. I've got a Gundam Mark III. It looks like a decent enough unit that you could use. I've got a copy of the beginning Gundam, so I could limit break this. Okay terrain compatibility, 5 movement. Okay weapons, not terrible. And then everyone starts with this G-Quux. I don't remember exactly how to upgrade it, but you kind of get the picture. You just want to kind of pick a supporter or try to get a supporter, at least SSR, and build around that supporter. That way you can use a free squad to carry you through the beginning stages of the game, because the beginning stages of the game really hold and bar a lot of your progress, because they're packed with a bunch of upgrade materials. And if you have nothing else to farm, you're gonna want to farm these stages, specifically the hard stages, for the obtainable rewards from normal battles here, these technical journals. That way you can complete the dev diagrams for these series. Okay? Now I haven't done any of these dev diagrams, again, because there's really no reason for me to do them. If I were building a Gundam team and my free squad, then I would have had to pump. Not only would I have had to pump development materials into getting all these, Gundams and the G3 Gundam and anything from the Xeon side. Because whenever you create these units, you have to level up all these units, and that requires level up materials. And it might not seem like much in Gundam, but whenever you get to something like Wing and even further along, whenever you're developing the Gundam Epion, you need 3 level 50 units to develop this Gundam Epion. So that's why the free squad carry is so important, because it really allows you to save and use your development material in a squad that is going to be effective throughout the entire game. And you can kind of dictate that with your reroll pulls. Now I'm going to show the reroll that I did and kind of explain my thought process through that reroll now. So I just want to quickly show a reroll that I probably could have used that I passed up on. I ended up getting a good bit of UR units on this pull, and specifically 2 pretty good supporters that I probably could have kept, but I ended up not using. First 10 pull, we didn't really get anything. The second 10 pull, we got the Striker Custom, which I'll talk about the Striker Custom a little bit later. And we also got 2 Halphas Gundams, so I could have limit broken a Halphas Gundam, and the Halphas Gundam's not bad for SSR. On the third 10 pull, didn't get anything. But on the fourth 10 pull, I got Tifa and Frau Bo. And these are both 2 good UR supporters. Tifa's one-shot killer tag, and Frau Bo is tough as nails tag. So both of those are really good supporters. And then on the next 10 pull, I ended up getting another UR unit, the Crossbone Gundam X1. So that's 4 URs. Also got a lightning fast supporter. So this is a pretty good reroll, despite me not really like looking at every single unit that I got. Those 2 UR supporters are really good, and I probably could have built a team around them. You know, the Gundam Crossbone X1 is tough as nails, and I probably could have built some stuff around them. But I ended up deciding on not going with this reroll. Not really sure why. I just, I was kind of in the mood of like just seeing what rerolls can get me. And 4 URs from the initial amount of diamonds that you get is pretty good. And then for the free 10 pull here, you can just keep on pulling until you hit a unit that you want. In this specific instance, you'd probably want to go with the Sazabi. It's one-shot killer. So yeah, Sazabi probably would have been a good decision to finalize here. And at that point, I would have had 5 URs. I would have had a tough as nails attacker, Sazabi attacker, and then, we can still build out our team later with additional diamonds and pulls from all the starter stages you get. So pretty good overall there. But I did decide to reroll and go with this next lineup that I'm going to show, which is the final lineup that I used. So here's the pulls that I actually ended up using. I'm just checking my supporters here because my game ended up crashing on the first pull. I did get Hinkle and Radish, so that's a UR supporter for Mobile Suit Gundam Zeta. Not a bad unit to have in the back pocket for later on and potentially building a Zeta team. So on the second pull after that, I got the Phoenix Gundam and Lasai, both good UR supporters. So, I could build around those as my supporters. Next pull, no URs. Pull after that, I ended up getting the SSR Unstoppable leader. So I was like, well, maybe we could pull some unstoppable units and go with that. And then the next pull after that, I didn't actually get anything. So I ended up pulling 3 URs from my initial pull lineup. And then I had the Unstoppable tag. And Phoenix Gundam and Lasine both have the Unstoppable tag, so I was kind of looking at that and I was like, okay. And then Halphas Gundam had the Unstoppable tag. I was like, all right. G-Quux had the Unstoppable tag, so I was kind of like, I already kind of have a supporter. I've got a good SSR attacker in the G-Quux. I've got the Halphas that I can use for now, so, I was thinking maybe I could build around Unstoppable. And then I go in, for my guaranteed UR banner. So I didn't really know what units had unstoppable whenever I was pulling my guaranteed UR. I was just gonna look at them and figure it out, basically. So I was just pulling until I saw an attacker or defender UR with unstoppable. X1 Custom didn't have it. I don't know if Gundam has unstoppable or not, but I wasn't prioritizing a defender for these pulls. The sign already had one of them, so not the biggest importance. And then the narrative APAC Gundam, I'll kind of talk about that later on what you should kind of prioritize on repulls. But then I do get the Exia, and I take a look at it, and it's got unstoppable. So I was like, all right, that's, I've got an Exia, I've got a supporter, so I've got an attacker and a supporter UR for unstoppable. I've got G-Quux, I've got Halfa's Gundam. Like, so far, this is looking pretty good. And then I do my... Now, this is a limited event, so you won't necessarily always have access to this, but there's currently, like, a free select 10 pull thing going on where you get to pull, like, 8 times and pick and keep the best 10 pull that you want. This won't always be available. It's going to end after, like, Christmas, New Year's time, but obviously I'm going to use it because it's free here. I mean, at this point, my team's not bad. Like, I've got Exia, I've got Phoenix, I've got G-Quux, and I've got Halfa's Gundam, and I can use those in an unstoppable team and probably throw in one other SSR or something, or I could just use the sign as a supporter. But then I end up getting this, which is just an absolutely insane pull. This is what I end up using. It's got a UR support. It's a triple UR pull. It's got a UR supporter. Got a force impulse. The UR supporters for test type, which you can... It is a tag that you can use for certain things. I don't have a ton of them. I don't think there's too many of them that you get initially, but I mean the F91 had unstoppable and its support defense. So, and I got a UR supporter, so it's like I'm probably just gonna keep this. I didn't think there would be anything that would be better, and sure enough, that's what I ended up keeping, and that's how I built out my initial team with rerolling. Now I'm going to quickly talk about how to reroll. Basically, all you're going to do is you're going to launch the game, get through the tutorial, get to the stages or the part of the game where you can actually start pulling on units. You're going to make your pulls, and if you review everything and you don't like what you see, you're just going to go to the menu on the right side, return the title, which will bring you back to the game's title. And at the top left, you're going to hit menu, delete user data, agree, delete, and then that'll reset your user data. So you now have your resources again for repull. You don't have to go through the tutorial again. You just have to accept the agreements and stuff, and you just click on skip tutorial whenever it comes around. Make sure you click skip tutorial. Don't redo the tutorial. It usually takes about roughly, like, I'd say 5 to 10 minutes to do a reroll. If you're newer to the game, you might want to just reroll and see what you can get early on, just to kind of get accustomed to it and see what type of units there are out there, and look at the tags and look at the different Gundams and stuff. But all you basically have to do is go to the menu, return to the title, and delete your character data whenever you want to reroll. And then it just brings you back in at rank 1 with the tutorial completed, and you collect your gifts, and you can go and reroll stuff. Or just, pull on banners, basically. So the last thing I want to talk about is what Gundams to look out for whenever you're repulling, and what Gundams to avoid whenever you're repulling, and kind of how to determine what URs are good and what's bad. And it's not necessarily like URs that are bad, it's just that they have some pitfalls that you can easily run into if you're not aware of what you're doing. So whenever you're rerolling, the first example of a Gundam that is instantly a red flag is the Easy 8 Gundam. So the Easy 8 Gundam is like, this is a super good unit. I've got it on my main account. It does a crap ton of damage. Like, it's a good unit. The problem with the Easy 8 Gundam though is its terrain compatibility is pretty bad. It only has full movement on ground maps. And it also only has 4 movement, which is another kind of red flag there. Now, obviously, all these URs are going to have good tags, and you can take a look at the tags here on this database. But, like, generally speaking, the issue with the Easy 8 is terrain compatibility, and it's only got 4 movement. And that's kind of what you're going to be looking for in a free squad UR. You want your free squad URs to be versatile. And the two most important terrains are space and ground. So space and ground are probably your two most important terrain compatibilities. Space is the primary stage for a lot of fights. Obviously, it's Gundam. The next Gundam that I want to talk about is the Striker Custom. It doesn't fall into the same pitfall as the Easy 8 Gundam with this terrain compatibility. It does get full movement in space and ground. But the biggest problem with the Striker Custom is that it's a melee unit with 4 movement, which can be an issue. Now, I have used the Striker Custom on my main as well, and it is also a super good Gundam. Like, don't get me wrong, the Striker Custom is a really good Gundam, but you just have to be aware of its kind of limitations or its drawbacks. And then the other thing is also you do get the G-Quux Gundam, which is a melee Gundam from the get-go. You're going to be able to triple limit break it for free. So you already kind of have a melee type Gundam in your arsenal if you're going to use it, which is why the Striker Custom is kind of, you know, not the greatest in the world. But again, like the Striker Custom is a super good Gundam. Like if you do pull the Striker Custom and you do end up using it, which you probably will if you do pull it, like you'll instantly notice that this thing does a crap ton of damage. Next Gundam I wanted to talk about was the Narrative Gundam APAC. This is one of those like 2x2 Gundams, and it doesn't suffer the movement issue. Like it's got 5 movement. Kind of the issue with these larger Gundams is that they're a bit more specialized, most of them for space fights. Like a lot of those bigger Gundams are primarily for space fights. They can fight in the atmosphere usually, but they can't be used in any type of water stages or ground stages. So they just kind of have a terrain compatibility limitation. Other than that, though, I mean, it's probably a really good unit. It's got a map attack, which is the AoE attacks, which is nice. And it's got, a bunch of weaponry. It's got good ranges. It's got up to 4 range. So I mean, like it's got decent weapons, and it's a defender or supporter, defense supporter. But again, the issue with this, especially early on, whenever you're trying to establish your free squad, is that you're missing that ground compatibility, which can be a big hindrance early on whenever you're trying to get a couple of suits to really push the early stages and progress your game. Now, Gundams that are good, that you probably want to look out for and potentially use for your free UR reroll. You get one that you can reroll for free, and these are included in them. This is Zabi EX, 5 movement, got space, it's got ground, and it's just a good attacking Gundam. You get the 5 move, you get the good terrain compatibilities, and you got a 2 to 5 range attack, 3 to 5 range attack. It's got really good range. So it's got a 5 attack range. It's got good movement, decent terrain compatibility. The Zabi's a good Gundam. It's a good option. Similarly, the Exia. The Exia has amazing terrain compatibility. So it's a super versatile Gundam. 5 movement. And you've got up to 4 weapon range with it. And then the EX attack is a 3. So this does tend to kind of be a more melee-oriented Gundam, but it also can do damage at a range, especially with this attack, Trans Am. Trans Am, the drawback with it is that it can only be used at tension max, but I want to say the pilot gives you that as you level them up. But Exia is a good unit overall. And then I think the Gundam Unicorn's a decent unit as well. It's got space and ground, so it's got decent terrain compatibility. It's got 5 movement, and then it's got an array of different weapons. So those are some kind of generalized options for you. You mostly just want to be looking at the tags. The series can play a slight role, but it doesn't matter as much for the free squad. The tags, the terrain compatibility, and the movement of the Gundam. That should give you a decent indication of whether or not the Gundam is good or not. And then other than that, you've got to look at the weapons. You mostly want to try to figure out like what the Gundams are specialized at doing, and you can get more in depth with like the weapon types, melee ranged, all 3 of them. But that stuff's kind of covered into the game tutorials, and I'd actually recommend you go through them if you're confused on some of that stuff. The in-game training does do a decent job of explaining that stuff, and you should be able to kind of start putting the pieces together on how to build a squad, or at least a free squad, with a compatible supporter and some solid UR units that you can reroll for. So I hope that all helps with building a free squad and doing rerolls. If you guys have any comments or any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And if there's any other expert advice that anyone wants to give, throw them down in the comments as well, because there's something that I might have missed or something that I might have been unclear about, and I do apologize if that's the case. But anyway, I'm out. Hope you all have a great day, and stay tuned for my free-to-play series that's going to be coming up.